I just need you guys to see what I am experiencing at this very moment.
Oh, we can see. See this man in a Speedo and his big package.
I am driving back to LA from Vegas, and I always stop at this little outlet strip mall just to kind of walk around, maybe find a good deal. So I pull over, and I notice that there's like no cars in the parking lot. So I look it up, make sure that it's open. It says it's open. So I walk inside, and this is what I am seeing. Just nothing.
But look how clean everything is. That's actually impressive.
This fountain has no water in it. It's just odd. But then there's Bath and Body Works. And it's open.
You can't kill a Bath and Body Works.
There's two people in it. It's a mom and a son, and it's the same two people I saw when I entered the mall over here. So I basically walked around the entire mall just because I was curious to see. And so even that's odd because I'm like, it's a mom and a son. They're not even the workers. And looking in the shop, there's no one in there. It's just, I feel like this is the mall they filmed like The Last of Us or something. Maybe Warm Bodies. Maybe that's why it was shut down. Or maybe they're going out of business. But like, freaky. I mean, I do have to pee, so I'm going to use the restroom. But even this, oh my gosh.
She's in the back rooms now.
This is just very eerie. I'm going to film this. Just so that way, if something happens...
Yeah, cameraman never dies.
Okay, we're onto something. They're clean at least. I have watched...
And they have toilet
many
paper.
Scary movies,
It's impressive.
but I am checking all these suckers. It is too quiet back here for this to be normal.
So she's trying to find the killer.
Freaking weird. Okay, gotta go.
As we know it, malls are dying. Retail stores are all coming out of brick and mortar and they're all going online, leaving malls an absolute deserted zone. So I think those need to be redeveloped into housing, maybe senior housing, that type of thing, and have it mixed use malls. So for instance, one section of that mall.
No, I completely disagree with him on this. Malls are built for a specific use case. They're not good for residential housing or becoming an old folk home. And I say this as somebody who has completely overhauled and renovated a soup manufacturing plant into a rec center. And I've also turned homes into dental offices. So let me give you an example of what a mall would be better suited for. Malls typically have anchor store designs. And so we'll just do the very basic, very basic version of kind of their layouts. So these will typically be anchor stores. For the center one, we're just going to make this the cafeteria. And then we'll do like, there'd be a Macy's here, and then there'd be like a Nordstrom's right here. Okay, these are typically the larger parts of the wings. And then what you'll see is there will be a corridor here, and then there'll be the hallway here. We could do this a little bit different. It'll be a hallway here. And then these are the smaller stores along in between. Same goes for over here. And you'll have the stores right here, store there, store there, store there, store there. Okay, and then what you'll have is you'll have your parking lots out here, parking lots out here, and usually there'll be some kind of parking over here as well. Parts in the middle right here. When I had one of my old businesses, we had carts in two malls. It was a cell phone repair little kiosk. We had a cart and we had a kiosk. So what do we have here? We've got two large areas, then we've got a cafeteria here, and then we have some sectioned off rooms here. So this right here, if I were to change the name on these, if I were to call this a gym, and this Macy's was like put a stage there, rows of chairs. We'll keep the cafeteria the same. Then we have these sectioned off rooms here. Some of you have already guessed, you could make these classrooms. So if that gives you an idea of what you could turn them all into, but really turning it into residential housing doesn't make sense. Developers are just going to want to demo it because the cost is going to be worth it in the long run, because if you built a suit, you can basically just have this be 4 stories high. You can have updated equipment. You can have updated building materials, and your costs long term are going to be much better, and you're going to be much more profitable because you're going to utilize your real estate much better by just demoing the whole thing and starting from scratch. If you're liking this video, please give it a like, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and let's keep going.
That mall could actually be senior housing. The other side could still be a mall, right? Everyone can still enjoy that mall, see that mall, because there's still stores that do like being in that brick and mortar mall. But then I would give the senior citizens the ability to walk the mall, get their exercise in, go shopping, because they love that mall.
Senior citizens already do this. If you've ever worked at a mall or had a shop at a mall, you know that they come early morning before the malls open and they walk the malls. Especially in the wintertime, they're completely packed with senior citizens.
Experience that mall feel. They wouldn't have to drive to get there. The second part would just be all those parking lots, right? So you have massive parking lots. You don't need those around malls these days. So those could start getting redeveloped into some restaurant space and things of that nature. But I think malls is the biggest opportunity for redevelopment because a lot of malls are going down. They're beautiful buildings, they're really big, but the stores don't want to be in there as much. So I think the malls and developers need to change the idea of malls to make it more of a mixed use feel.
First, I think I need to get some of my bias out of the way here. I am not a guy who likes malls particularly. I'd rather tour an abandoned mall with a bunch of random dudes I met on the internet than go to a regular mall.
Touring abandoned malls are way funner, but I don't have a problem with malls. I think he has a problem with the price of stuff at malls. What sucks about malls is that if you work at a mall, you usually can't afford to shop there.
However, I think that it's important that we appreciate and recognize the cachet that the local mall has held in North American culture for decades. See, online shopping Gen Zers today don't understand that before the internet, the mall was quite literally the place to be seen and see other people being seen by other people. Especially as a teenager, this was one of the only places where there was no adult supervision for the most part. This was basically the cultural melting pot for youths over the last 60 years. It was cheap.
I'm going to disagree with that one heavily. The schools were the melting pots and the churches were the melting pots. Yes, the malls were part of it, but not everybody went and hung out at malls.
Food, security to keep things from getting out of control, bathrooms, running water, and endless entertainment of looking through racks and racks of posters at HMV. You can get just a taste of this experience through this very pixelated video from 14 years ago. It was like free babysitting for teenagers, if your parents were okay with entrusting their beloved child to a bored Gap employee. Luckily for the entire economy, most parents actually were, and thus the mall indirectly kept a large sector of the economy going for decades. Now, stores would change over time as fads came in and out of style. Stores entirely devoted to calendars or t-shirts with dirty slogans on them, onesie
Tie
pajamas,
stores,
and even stuff that you'd seen on TV could be found at your local mall. Now, at this point, it seems kind of fun, harmless, even kind of a genius business model. But believe me when I say that the business model was designed not to benefit the citizens who frequented there, but the corporations who were selling the stuff. Corporations loved malls because this was the place where they could groom youth as a captive audience into being good consumers as adults, going from buying.
See, I think malls would be a lot better and more interesting if they had a ton of different local stores in them. They all have the same Hot Topic. They all have Macy's. They all have Nordstrom's. They all have Verizon. They all have an AT&T. It's like every mall is the same. And if you had a mix of just totally random local stores, maybe even just, I'd say more than half, if you could get it at like 60% of random stores, I think that would be awesome. Maybe you have somebody who makes custom furniture at a mall, somebody who makes custom clothing even. Maybe you have some alteration stores there. I think it'd be really cool. Some nail salons that are locally owned and not some big corporation. Some spas. I think it'd be really cool.
Buying dong-shaped novelty items at Spencer's Gifts to buying really expensive vacuums from Best Buy. But unlike most inventions under capitalism, the mall was not actually invented purely to manipulate us into buying more stuff. It was originally supposed to help us live better lives. See, the man who invented malls was an idealistic Austrian Jewish inventor named Victor Gruen. He wanted to have malls function as what sociologists call third spaces. Safe and neutral spaces that aren't home or work where people can meet and, in Gruen's words, provide the needed place and opportunity for participation in modern community life.
So with that in mind, they should have local libraries in the malls because you already have traffic that's coming to the local library already. While they're there, they can look at the stores. In fact, if you have the library inside and then across the hall, you have a Barnes & Noble, it would be perfect because you already have all your book lovers right here in one area. They go across the hallway, they purchase books for themselves, the books that they want to buy, and not just rent from the library, check out from the library. And then you also have them buying gifts for their friends who are probably also book nerds. Or let's say you go to the library, here's a thought, and you want to check out a book, but there's a waiting list. Well, walk just 10 feet, 20 feet across the hall, and you can buy the book right there.
But okay, so we're gonna catch up to why malls are failing today. And to understand why, you have to understand how malls work. Malls need 3 to 4 anchor stores to function properly. Anchor stores are big stores, basically traditional one-stop shop department stores like Macy's or, the Bay or something if you're in Canada. The idea is that these big stores lure people in, and then when they're done at that store, they might wander down one of the arms of the mall to check out what's nearby. Due to the economics of scale, the prices at the anchor stores are usually pretty cheap, and their large name gives credibility and loyal customer bases something to show up for. These anchor stores are crucial, and you can tell about how well a mall is doing based on their performance. The other smaller feeder stores will cycle through, but their performance is basically entirely dependent on whether or not Macy's is selling whatever Macy's sells. I've never been in a Macy's. I'm Canadian, so I've really just never, I don't understand that reference completely. Recently though, in Canada, malls were left scrambling when Nordstrom pulled out of the frozen north, as they had been a reliable high-end retail anchor for decades. And when one anchor leaves, the stores in the mall inevitably start to close their doors too. But now listen, I'm sure you're at your keyboard ready with your actuallys, and you want to explain that in fact, Levi, the death of the mall is easily explained. It's online shopping. Duh. Levi, we're too easily tempted by free shipping and too vexed by the very thought of human-to-human social interactions in the real world. Now listen, it is an easy assumption to make that online shopping has killed malls, but a red herring, and a tall tale it is. In fact, according to Meet Me by the Fountain author Alexandra Large, online shopping actually only occupies about 20% of clothes, home goods, and other retail sales, and has stayed at 20% pretty consistently since the pandemic. The hair in the pudding of online shopping killed mall story is that odd little fact that malls in Europe are actually doing totally fine, and online shopping exists there.
Nailed it.
In fact, they're not just doing fine. Post-pandemic, they're rebounding into doing great. Partially what has happened is that mall anchors, aka the department stores, are no longer the determinants of taste that they used to be. For a long time, things were very top-down. Designers would come up with new clothes and other changes to housewares and furniture or whatever. Then the local housewives would take a break from their chain smoking in their suburban houses to go and look what rich people had decided would make them the most stylish Jones on their block. But today, trends come from everywhere, right? We got blogs, we've got TikTok style roundups, and you can buy anything you want from Shein and get it within like 5 business days of the trend even being conceptualized. And yes, I know that in a roundabout,
I think this is a pretty good argument that he's making. Same's true with music and movies and pretty much everything, just everywhere all at once.
I am saying that the internet is kind of to blame for the fall of malls, but it is not just online shopping. Probably one of the most under-discussed reasons why the American mall is dying today is poor municipal planning. Now look, we talk about this a lot more in the parking lots video, which is coming out soon, but
This guy really hates roads and cars. He's got a chip on his shoulder about it.
Driving to get to a mall is kind of a giant pain in the ass. People don't want to have to stuff their kids into a car, get them to the mall, pull them out of the car, go into the store, walk around with
Yeah, but people have less kids nowadays, so that shouldn't be an issue.
them for hours when they could just hand them an iPad at home and keep them entertained, right? Don't believe me? Well, in the States, the public transit system is actually so bad that you basically have to drive everywhere, and malls are failing. Whereas in Europe, public transit is very comprehensive and well developed, and you can go places quite easily by train or bus, and their malls are thriving.
Yeah, I don't know that I buy this argument that he's making. I really don't think that it's going to fill up the mall just because there's a close train station to it. Well, for one, how much stuff are you going to be able to take back home with you? Maybe you could have one bag and carry that on the train, but you're not going to do your Christmas shopping. And so, yeah, I don't know that I agree with what he's saying.
Sadly, this geography major can't just blame all of the world's problems on the vehicle. Also at play here in the decline of North American malls is the increasing divide between upper, middle, and lower and working classes. See, folks with less cash are more likely to go to outlet stores like Walmart or dollar stores, or buy things secondhand on online marketplaces or at thrift stores. This is evidenced by the fact that what are known—
Wow, that is incredible. Is this a real thing? Is AI fooling me here?
Known as Class A malls are doing totally fine. These are luxury malls for people who have way too much money, just so we're clear on that. Because here's the thing, when corporations back in the day were like, hey, why don't we move our factories to China and make our products cheaper there? They kind of forgot that this meant that they would be taking away high-paying jobs from the public, which meant that there would be less money in the economy for folks to go to the mall with. In Europe, there are typically more regulations around this kind of thing, so people generally have a little bit more money to go around, and they spend it at, you guessed it, the mall. The decline in the United States is so steep that nearly half of the malls that were around during the 60s and the 80s will be closed in the next 5 years. Add this to the fact that upper middle classes are increasingly preferring boutique experiences for their retail excursions, Gen Z kids being able to hang out in digital third places like Minecraft servers and whatnot, and the fact that
well, at least a lot of malls have movie theaters to bring people out to them.
That America has more than 5 times the retail space that the UK does, and you've got a recipe for an oversaturation of a product that nobody really wants anymore.
There's still a lot of people that shop at malls. They're just being consolidated, and there's just less people who can afford to shop there. Saying nobody wants it is an overstatement.
How do they rebrand to slow the bleeding? Some malls have added just a bit of Disney to the experience. Ski slopes, amusement parks, bungee jumping, petting zoos, concerts, whatever that they can do to make the mall more of a destination, which is probably smart, but it's not really working because of the same public planning and economic issues that we talked about before. The malls who are actually seeing a lasting revitalization are actually the ones a little closer to Victor Gruen's original vision, hosting community colleges, office spaces, ice rinks, churches, and other community spaces where people can gather meaningfully. So yeah, the mall as we know it today is probably dead, and maybe that's a good thing. We just gotta hope that the thing that replaces it doesn't suck so bad.
Of course, what's replacing them is going to be worse. It's going to be Amazon, Walmart, Costco. It's big corporations. At least malls had a mix and a variety of different smaller corporations. Oh, shit. As I said earlier, it would be better to have smaller local businesses at the malls. But yeah, getting rid of the malls is not ideal. That's it for tonight. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.